here's the book so far with the outer edge and the spine worked. And let me just show you now what we're going to aim for. So we're going to work on the inner edge of that cover and the inner edge of the spine like this, and then the fold here where the book opens and there's a little hollow down there. So let's just go back to where we were and see what we need to do. So the first thing we need to know, if I put it up this way, is we know that there's a cover here and the cover extends beyond these pages here. I'm doing this with my pencil because what I've done is I've scored it with a marking gauge all the way along, which is the same as I scored along here. So it's the same amount of cover each time. So we know that this wood here, all the way along here, this is being removed. And then if we come down to this part, we know that the edge of the cover is going to be something like that. And I've scored this again, but let me put it in with a pencil line here. Right, so it's coming up here. And the same on this side, it's coming up here. Oops, make those accurate. So what we're saying is that this is the actual cover sticking out. So the pages have to be taken back. So all this wood here has to be taken back. Now, by the way, keep that centre line. I meant to say that. Keep that centre line. That's quite good because this cover comes up there. It's a good reference point. So one way of doing this would be, as before, get our carving gouges and start cutting this back, and so on. But it's a very good place for me to use my table saw, because resting this upside down on the bottom edge of my table saw, I can actually cut this whole face off up to above that level there, and not only am I well within my finished surface, but it is a nearly finished surface. I don't have to be chiseling. So I'm going to do that, and if you have a table saw, that's the best thing to do. But this is other way of doing it, a carver's way. We'll see more over here where we have to take wood away and what happens. Here I am back from the table saw. This is the bit I sawed off. You can see it removes a nice flat face. A bit of burning from the saw, but actually this will scrape clean very quickly. So it doesn't take much to finish that off, and I've got a smooth surface. What the table saw hasn't been able to deal with is this bit here, which is above the cover line. Now, to make the cover, it's really a good idea to score that line in, that to work up to it. And for that I made this little jig here, which is a little right angle piece of wood with a nail, little pin, and I've filed that off, and that gives me, resting on there, I can score that in. That gives me that edge here. So I now have, just put my pencil in. So this is the edge that I'm going to work to. It comes along here, and of course it's going to do a little jiggly thing in the end here. But all we need to do for the moment is to remove this wood here, and we would do this in the same way, cutting this way, as if we hadn't sawn that off. You do need to mark that end because that's the edge of the cover over there. And then with a deep gouge, the usual carving way is to come across the grain this way. Stop a little bit short of where we want to end up. So I'd work all the way along like this. I'll just do a little bit here so you can see exactly what I'm up to. And I'm going to stop my final cuts just above that line like that. I've walked all the way along, and then I'm going to come this way treating this edge here like the cover of the book edge that way, and we're going to come down this way. What I want to show you is that what we end up with is, although they're short, we have like ploughed furrows going in like this with a lot of mess, crud, protecting that corner in the middle. So from that tool we would go to perhaps a gouge that's like a number 6, a middle gouge, just to clean some of that up. Like this, again slightly above the finish line, and down here using above the finish line like this all the way along, and then we would get our flat gouges and we'd finish this off. Again, if you can work with the grain, that's good, otherwise you're working across the grain. And remember, this has got to come along here and round that corner, so that edge and that edge join together neatly. And then down here. So here I went a little bit deep, but all that means is nobody will notice when I just feather that in slightly and remove it. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm working it all the way along both sides towards the middle. So we get all this clean. We bring it up and a little bit beyond where the spine is. This bit we're going to be working separately along here. So once you've got that fairly flat, you can clean this up with perhaps a rasp to get that nice straight edge. Again, what we're looking for is this line and this line. If it's a little bit out on this surface, doesn't matter too much, but that corner wants to read very true. This is the bit you'll see. An alternative is to get a nice square block of wood, wrap it in some sandpaper, and you can run it along here like this and clean it up that way. So this is an alternative to a rasp. You can also clean up this little bit. And then this face, again, well, either you've used your saw or we've got a sort of slightly stipple faceted surface from your carving tools. That needs to be cleaned up flat. So you can use a rasp or that sort of thing, sandpaper. Make sure that's... So all this will be cleaned up. So this is all clean here, nice sharp edge here, stopping short of the spine here. And this should go like this and around that corner. Like that. So this is all finished now, up to about here. A little bit of cleaning up. So that's all done. What I also did is get a chisel, doesn't matter how wide it is, and just stabbed it in here. And this creates a tiny little bit of a shadow where the pages meet the book. This cover might be painted, stained, whatever. If not, that shadow really does help along there. So we're left with this section here. That's our last really bit of the book. So we know that this is the width of the cover. So we know that is the width of the back spine. Sometimes it's thinner, but I wouldn't go that far. This curls this way and this one curls like this. So we have this little S going on here, and we have the opposite in this direction like this. So we have to remove this wood here. And of course, we go back to our gouge. Start chopping that off. A little bit down here, careful not to stab into the background there. Take some of that out, and then with the gouge upside down, I can start creating this edge here. So there's the start of my inside of my cover. Let's fill that off here a little bit. This is just a smaller number 9. Take some of that back here. Okay, I'm going quite carefully here because I don't want to stab into this back of the cover, so push that in a bit. Right, so now I need to round this part over. I'll just find myself a gouge that matches the curve, push that in, and this is coming square on here. I'll just work this side for the moment, and then this bit's going to have to be nibbled away in there to create a little sort of stab in there, a little crease. That in there. We'll just leave that a little bit for later. So what I want to show you is that when I get to here, let's say I've done that on both sides for the moment. When I've got to here, what happens is the pages of the book actually overhang a little bit, like that. They don't fold from here, they fold from back here. And then from there, there's a sort of curve like this. And it's in here that we're removing wood. So let me just clean up both sides, get that sorted, and then I'll show you how we're going to do this. I found the skew chisel quite useful for getting into here and here, to these points. Got a nice sharp edge there and there. So now, to remove this piece of wood here, you can see this is still and it's not cleaned up. What I haven't done, really important, is I haven't stabbed into this inside of the spine. If you let it ride up a little bit to begin with, then you're a little bit safe. But eventually we will want to go square in, just like the covers. So it's all nicely at right angles. So I would leave a little bit of a gap here between the inside of the page, where this angle where they open, and the top of this hole. Don't bring it right up. You want a little bit of wood in there. So it's going to come down here, and the page itself is coming over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a flattish gouge, a slight curve, and put a stab cut in here, which marks the end of that page. Same on this side. And then we're going to get another tool which will go from the end of the stab cut up to there. Now, depending on this distance, this might be more of a circle, half circle, or it might be an arch like that. So it'll be what it'll be, but I'm assuming it is in two parts for the moment. And this, I notice, is a little bit wider than that one. Well, that's the way it is. But I will just make sure that's stabbed across here slightly. And I know this is my edge here. So now the job is to clear out this wood here. Now all you need to do is make enough of a recess to create a shadow. You don't have to go all the way through to the other end. You don't have to bore it out. So we're looking at something probably about 45 degrees to this plane here. Nothing, certainly start with that, see how it goes. And I would begin by just keeping away from the edge just for the moment. Start cutting those out like this. I don't think it's necessary to bore it out. What I am going to do though, perhaps I should have mentioned it, I'm going to deal with this little section here and here separately. So I'm going to just create the hole down to the edge here and then deal with those little bits. I'm not going to worry about that too much at the moment. So, get another tool, cutting this back. See the hole starting to come now. Swap into something a bit smaller, a bit narrower. Oops. Right, so there's my, I can start just sweeping this around like this up to that set in line, that sort of stabbed in line on there, down here like this, and that's as far as I need to go. It's about 45 degrees. And it might be that I need to turn this upside down because we're looking, you know, how we've got the camera is a little bit tricky, so feel free to move this around so that you've got a good view of it. Anyway, so get this first bit out, which is all of this little cavern up to this edge here. So we're left with this little overhang there to deal with. We have to take a lot of care over these edges and not to damage them. And one of the best ways to do that is to use your thumb as a pivot for the tool, so that as you really work that corner, but you're really pivoting like this on that thumb. So you can push that in there, or use that corner right in there like that, and then come in this way, pivot along here. With that you aim to pull out this waste wood here. There we go. So not too deep. Make sure that's now a tidy junction at the back. This is a nice tidy curve or arch, whatever. So we've got a nice sharp edge back there, and then make sure, then we've just got this little last bit to do. So I have a stab cut across here, if you remember, and then I have this other cut coming in here. That's rounding over the curve. So what I need to do is take this little piece of wood away here. I don't have to go in too deep. Again, I just have to create a shadow. So I'm going to take a narrow gouge here. I'm just going to nibble that back like this. To get rid of that final little bit of grain back there, I'll use this skew chisel. This luck, push that in there. Remember, of course, when you go in with the skew chisel, not to go this way. you can go that way, but you should never wobble that, you'll snap the point off. So just that last little bit here. So there's a little bit of a pyramid we're removing there. There it comes out. And then once that's out, and that's cleaned up back there, and then what we want to do is just round this sharp edge here. This is a corner coming from that line to this line, is rather hard angle. We'll just round that over like that, so we'll round that down. So we've got to get in there, make sure all that's nice and tidy in there. Do that on both sides. You should have a nice clean junction all the way across here. I think that mark is the pencil. Yeah, so you've stabbed in here. You can stab in along here to create this crease here. You can stab in along here to create that crease on both sides. Nice clean junction, and since we've sanded this, we can sand that on the inside. So with that, the end of the book is finished, and we've left just a little bit of wood there, just enough. It's about 3 mil, 1/8 of an inch. Just a bit of strength there. That's all that's needed.